So we're back. If you haven't checked out the previous video on just the basic argument against abortion, why don't you go ahead now, pause this video, go back, check the other one out. I'll leave the link for that one in the description of this video. So last time we looked at the basic argument against abortion. Here it is. It's on the screen. I go through the explanation in the previous video. For now, let's look at some of the, again, common objections that I hear. And the first one I'm going to call, let's just call it the religious objection, right? You see the bumper stickers, get your rosaries off my ovaries. That's a favorite of mine. This idea that there's a wall of separation between church and state, blah, 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 right, etc. Okay, so for one, this is not a religious issue. First of all, if you think that there's a wall of separation between church and state, just even constitutionally, that's just false. Historically, concerning the history of the United States, that is also just false. I might advise you to go study some history, go study the Constitution, study civics, whatever. Odds are but again, I think anybody that puts forward any of these objections already isn't thinking very clearly. But fundamentally, right, the biggest problem with this objection is that this is not a religious issue. Stop bringing this up. Okay? Look at the argument I just gave. At no point did I invoke the Bible or divine revelation or the authority of the church or God or anything else in this argument, right? This is an issue of natural reason. As I showed you, right, from premise one, this is just based on basic principles of natural philosophy and ethical reasoning drawn from natural principles. Right? So this is an issue of natural reason. This is not a religious issue. Stop bringing that up, right? There can be an affirmation from religious faith, but that's not the argument. This is an argument based on the fact that it's wrong to murder people, and the fertilized egg is a person, right? That's your baby, okay? And it's wrong to murder your own children. Okay? This is not a religious issue. Stop bringing it up. You sound ridiculous. Okay? If I get a little angry at this part of the video, it is because, one, I'm tired of listening to people make stupid arguments. And two, this is a little personal for me because I have to say, at least on my social media where I pulled a lot of this crap, these are, let's just say, the people I should have taught better, right? And I didn't. And so, yeah, I'm a little angry about it. I didn't do my job well. I like doing my job well. But whatever. Let's move on, right? So this is not a religious issue. Get over it. Right? This is an issue of natural reason. It's based on the fact that killing innocent people is wrong. Okay? That's what this is about. This is not based on divine revelation or religious faith at all, right? If you are a religious person, clearly you can draw an affirmation from that, but it's not necessary for the argument that I'm making, right? The second objection, right? This one is that, well, imagine not caring about women. Women have it tough, whatever. Or that if this was about babies, we would have free healthcare, childcare, free education, free diapers, whatever. I've seen other, memes like this, right? The government is forcing you to have kids, but it doesn't want to force them to be safe at recess. Or, I mean, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You know these kinds of arguments, right? Logically, we called it, this is the fallacy of arguing besides the point, right? Notice that this does not address the argument about murder at all or in the slightest. Okay? Also, and I find this interesting. Maybe some of you guys can fill me in on this. There's a lot of overlap. People that are putting forward these arguments about abortion, they tend to also be the same people that put forward, they tend to be in favor of socialism, all these just endless government social services. They also tend to be in favor of a lot of other weird things, alphabet stuff, all this other, and it's just curious to me that there's an overlap, people who think that way. But again, maybe some of y'all can fill me in on this. I'm not sure why that would be, right? But note in this argument, though, that they're trying to put forward, if this was about babies, then the government would just give us free healthcare and all this other stuff, right? When you make an argument, there's such a thing called the middle term, right? You'll notice in my argument here, the middle term here is the deliberate taking of innocent human life, right? It shows up in both premises. It serves to connect the subject and the predicate of the conclusion, and you'll note that's why it drops out, right? Once it serves its purpose of connecting the subject and the predicate together, okay, it doesn't have to show up in the conclusion. Okay? There's not a middle term. That gets us from the argument that parents have the moral obligation to raise their own children. That's what this is really about, right? This isn't about government socialism or social safety nets or social services, safety programs, whatever, right? This is about sex makes babies, right? And parents have an obligation to raise their own children. Right? There's not a middle term that gets us from that to the conclusion that, again, government should provide endless social services. If you have one, that's an argument that you need to make. But again, to my first point, this doesn't address the argument that I've made at all. Okay? And this is, again, a foolish argument besides, because it ignores the point, the basic point: sex makes babies. If you can't get your head around that, you're probably too dumb to be having sex in the first place. And actually, that might explain a lot, right? Oh, well. But anyway, right? So moving on, right? This is a red herring. This is arguing besides the point. It's also a non sequitur. Is it right? This conclusion does not follow from that. If this was about babies, then what, right? Babies should be raised in their own families by their own parents, wherever that's possible, right? Obviously, there are certain exceptions to that rule, but you don't make general principles, you don't make law based off the minority cases, right? The exceptions to the rule. Okay. Everybody knows this one, right? This is my body, my choice. Okay. This involves a categorical confusion. And let's go back to Aristotle's 10 categories. Right? You are confusing a couple of things, right? Namely, the notion of a substance and the location of that substance. Right? When we looked at premise two, when we looked at that abortion is the deliberate taking of innocent human life, we saw that this entity, the fertilized egg, this person from the moment of conception, it is not the woman's body. Right? That's the flaw in this argument. The my body, my choice. Sure, it's not your body. Right? You're making a categorical confusion between something that's your body and something else that is in your body. Right? So this entity that, right, the fertilized egg, this new person, right, is not the woman's body. It has its own DNA. It has its own organs, right? Right. When you look at it, it has its own head. It has its own arms and legs and its own heart, and it develops all the other organs, right? And your body, sorry, it doesn't have two heads, two hearts, right? Four arms, four legs, whatever, right? It's not your body. It's something else that is in your body, right? But not your body. And again, this just follows from the notion that the natural purpose of the sexual activity is to make new people. Right? And again, the first sign of that is that you don't get new people any other way. Right? You can have pleasure in a number of different ways. You can have intimacy in a number of different ways, right? You have fun and friendship and everything in a number of different ways, right? New people, sex, right? Only way you get new people. Right? The natural purpose of the sexual activity is making new people, right? That plays into this, right? So this is clear. This is not your body. Again, stop bringing this up, right? Learn this distinction. Right? The mark of a good mind is the ability to make and understand proper distinctions, right distinctions, right? And there is a difference between something and where that something is, right? So this thing is in the mother's body, but it is not her body. It's a separate body. It's a almost, you could say, it's a foreign body inside her body. Right? Love this one. If men could have babies, abortion would be legal. Logically, we call this is arguing using hypothesis contrary to fact, right? Men can't have babies, and you have no idea what it would be like if we could. Right? Also, note again, this is just besides the point. This is arguing besides the point. It does not address the argument given. And a little bit tongue in cheek, kind of referencing what I said earlier, right? Usually the people that argue these stupid arguments in favor of abortion, they tend to be the same morons who also say stuff like that men can have babies and that men can get periods and all that other kind of nonsense, right? Uh, so if you're willing to put forward that men can have babies, then you can't make this argument either that if men could have babies, abortion would be legal. And that, as I said, tongue in cheek. More to the point, this argument is just hypothesis contrary to fact, right? You can't make an argument based off of something that isn't the case, right? Again, this is also besides the point. Address the argument that's been given. Show me that it's okay to murder people or that abortion does not kill a human person, right? Show me that. Okay. I do like this one, right? Uh, Sometimes I've seen the meme, like the quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg about the decision to when and with whom and all to have families and stuff like that, right? Women should be free to decide when they want to have kids. I'm in total agreement, right? Women should be free to decide they want to have kids and with whom. This also is entirely besides the point, right? I'll repeat it again. Sex makes babies. Okay? Women are and should be absolutely free to decide when they want to have sex, right? But since sex makes babies, this is the natural purpose of sex. You don't get to decide to kill other people, right? If you don't want babies, don't have sex. I did see a meme the other day. Somebody posted again, but it was it was like people making this argument that like, oh, what was it? It was something along the lines of like that we don't understand that men just won't take no for an answer. And look, if those are the kinds of relationships that you find yourself in, you need to start asking yourself some questions. That's all I can say to that, right? Women are and should be absolutely free to decide when they want to have sex and with whom. But since sex makes babies, you need to understand that this could happen. And if you happen to conceive a child, you don't get to decide to kill another person, right? If you don't want babies, don't have sex, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this is about. I don't know. You can try to dance around it as much as you want. That's what this is about. People think, or the people advancing these kinds of arguments, think that sex is a recreational activity that they should be free to engage in whenever, wherever, and with whomever they feel like, and that there should be absolutely no consequences at all. And that is an error, right? The natural purpose of sex is to make new people. It's what it's for, as I've said, right? That's the only way that you get new people. It's high time, really, that we stopped treating sex so casually. Sex is awesome, right? And it should be treated that way, right? For the tremendous, wonderful gift that it is to bring new life into the world with your spouse. People don't want to talk about that, though. So, all right, we move on. Okay. Oh, is that the last one? Oh, well. All right. So 5 objections. That's not too bad, I suppose. Those seem to be some of the most common arguments that I see floating around the internet from people who really should know better, but they don't. Okay? And I've really held back a lot when I was, well, I've really held back a lot. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. We'll do that third video I did mention. We'll look at that article on Yahoo that I saw. That one should be relatively quickly, or should go by relatively quickly, because it covers some of the same points we've already talked about. So if you know an argument, maybe one that I didn't cover, feel free to drop it in the comments. Call me a name if you feel like. Just know that I'm going to laugh at you, because it means you probably haven't thought this through. But if there's an argument for abortion that I didn't cover here, or a variation that you thought that I should cover, feel free to drop it in the comments. You guys take care. I'll see you in the next video.